The more you learn about the Grand Canyon, the more you start to understand there's something very strange about it. Millions of people visit it, everyone knows about it, and yet the vast majority of it is unseen and unknown to this day. The deepest parts of the canyon are like a maze, thousands of miles of corridors of stone that are incredibly difficult to reach. Within that labyrinth are places so remote they don't have names, and geologic formations that are so large they almost seem impossible. I set out to find one of these remote places. It required multiple days of hiking in areas devoid of water, and technical steps I cannot show here. I knew something incredible was waiting many miles on the inside.
This is it.
The following was filmed over the course of one of the most difficult, spectacular, and strangest weeks of my entire life that ended in a narrow escape from disaster. Look at the sun leaving the tops of the cliffs. And the moon tonight was just beautiful. There's millions of fossils of sea creatures. There's no water anywhere. There's not even any springs. Got the first cactus spines of the trip. All right, we are moving through the geologic layers slowly. It's a crazy thought that we are now entering this canyon, and I will not be leaving this canyon for another 4 days. Still walking on big rocks. Oh, I'm so tired. There's a cave over here. I'm gonna go check it out. You just gotta make sure to flip your middle headlamp battery so it doesn't burn out on you. Okay, something about this cave is really different. It's a natural feature. Totally blackened roof. Anthropologists would tell you that the period of human occupation in the Grand Canyon started some 13,000 years ago. The tribes themselves would tell you they have always been there from the very beginning.
There's a perfect circular indentation in the roof of this cave.
When you are down here, only one of these explanations really feels right. The shape of that cave, it was like a perfect dome. And there's a little circle in the top. What in the world? There's just a black hole. Tunnels under the Grand Canyon. It's just big enough for a person to squeeze through. And yeah, it kind of looks like it keeps going. Check it out, there's another hole in the wall. Okay. There's the other one. Alright, I think it finally stopped. Got like the worst bloody nose I've had in a really long time. Really feel like on the drive out here, A pebble flew upwards from the side of the road and landed on the top of the camper. I heard it clatter on there. And I feel like I saw it too, like maybe out of the corner of my eye. It was really weird. Things are getting pretty weird out here in the Grand Canyon. But I mean, what else we want, you know? We want it to be weird in the Grand Canyon. All right, time to go to bed. I'm so tired. There's not a single sound. Here's my fuel canister. Here's my coffee cup. That's just so satisfying. This is the point of no return. Once I enter into this slot canyon, I have to be out of here before any strong rain. To get to this point, I had to hike almost 2 days where no water sources exist, and yet every single thing you have seen is the result of water. This is another great paradox of the Grand Canyon. Wow. Just a little trickle of water. So you see how there's two different layers? This layer is more dense. This one is more porous. So the water trickles down, hits this more dense layer, and then opens up a cavity to start flowing out of the side of the cliff. There's two different types of water here. The indigenous describe them as native and foreign waters. It's absolutely colossal. The Colorado and the floods that carve the canyon I'm standing in are foreign waters. They came from far away and passed through without staying. If there is any level of flooding, a place like this would become impassable. You can tell because there's nothing growing or even any large rocks. It's because the water force gets so powerful and concentrated here. Echo! Woo! The native waters are those precious waters that exist and slowly emerge from within the bedrock of the canyon itself. It was there for millions of years, and the deeper in you go, the more of it you will find. This is groundwater, completely pure. It is, and always has been, incredibly valuable. Looks like a bird might have gotten munched down right here. This is interesting. I've heard of this, but I've never seen it before. So that is all moss that used to be alive. You can see that the spring is still running right here. This used to all be a hanging garden. Now it's bone dry. I've never seen such a compelling proof of a spring that dried up. All that brown stuff underneath it, that's all just dead moss. Now imagine if you were living in this canyon and you depended on a spring for your survival. Your entire life was focused around one source of water. And then imagine one day it dries up. What would you do? It just goes to show you how much stuff changes around here. That is a huge chalk stone. A boulder fell down from up on the cliffs and wedged into that narrow section.
Ooh, frog.
I just did a video on the floods of eastern Washington, and there's something very similar that happens in a canyon like this, just on a much smaller scale. Every once in a while, maybe a couple times a year, maybe once every couple years, these little communities of life that live in these little pools will be hit by a massive wall of mud during a flash flood, and all the life in these little spring-fed pockets will be wiped out, but it will come back, and the frogs and the fish and the insects and stuff will return to these little peaceful pockets of water. You put them in your hand, lift them out of the water. I brought my wetsuit with me because I think we're gonna have to swim through some very narrow sections of this canyon. I don't know what to expect here. And we're gonna hang up my food bag so no mice get to it. Usually I'm doing this in a parking lot by the ocean somewhere, not in the bottom of a canyon. Even if you're swimming through water for a couple minutes in a canyon, it is extremely easy to get hypothermia. So frogs are a bioindicator species. If there's a lot of frogs, it's a pretty good sign that it's a healthy body of water. That is a big tarantula. I love how they move. It's so slow. I think we're going in. This limestone is beautiful, but it's also very slippery. We're underneath a gigantic overhang, and there's all these droppings on the side of the limestone. So it's literally raining down droppings from birds or bats that live in that overhang above us. Yeah! I could be the first person to stand on top of this. In the whole history of the world, probably not, but there's a chance. Let me just go aura farm on this rock real quick. We gotta get moving. The day is gonna run away from us. Oh! I bet you never seen a shot like that before. Alright, we're gonna go see what's in that alcove. This is a huge alcove. You can see that there's a lot of charcoal here. The rock in here has a really strange texture, and I think that's because this is one of those extinct springs. You can see the rock is stained from where moisture used to seep down. These are probably mineral deposits from when the water was flowing out of these holes. So springs were extremely sacred to the native people who lived in the Grand Canyon. Springs are the source of life in the desert. It's estimated that springs encompass less than 0.01% of the surface area of the entirety of the Grand Canyon. Yet within that 0.01%, there's 50 to 100 times more volume of species and biodiversity. Many of those springs that we found might be hosting endemic species that have exclusively evolved in that one pocket of water, in that one location, and nowhere else in the world. But the springs are not a permanent thing. Different water movements and fluctuations underground can cause them to dry up or appear in new places. This whole area was lived in and traveled by the Native Americans of the Grand Canyon. I wonder if dead springs also had a significance to them, or maybe possibly could have indicated some sort of negative energy that they would try to avoid. I have no idea. You know, in a lot of other alcoves like this, you would find potsherds, you know, flint flakes. There's nothing like that in here. I've been searching. It's all just dust. Many of the oral traditions of the tribes who called this place home describe cycles of creation, destruction, and renewal. The Wallapai, Havasupai, Southern Paiute, and especially the Puebloan cultures, like the Hopi, tie their origins to the very bottom of the earth. The Hopis consider us to currently exist in the Fourth Age. The Third Age ended in a powerful flood when humanity lost its way. The Fourth World was reborn in the bottom of the Grand Canyon.
Another one. That one also dried up.
And a more harmonious Fifth World will emerge only after the sunset of the civilization we live in now. It really makes me wonder if perhaps the groundwater is leaving this part of the canyon. It got me wondering if perhaps some of those beliefs were influenced by the cycles they would witness down here. Fresh, clean water is essential to all life. There's a new threat to our water out west, and it's in the form of buildings as big as the canyon I'm standing in. These buildings require millions of gallons of chemically stable water to cool down their processors, so they have started harvesting it primarily from the most pure source, groundwater, the very reason for all the life you are seeing. In places where the water table is already dropping, these massive machines will suck the aquifers dry even faster, using anywhere from 2 to 5 million gallons of crystal clear groundwater a day, stealing it from all living things to power a machine. I've never seen more frogs before in my entire life. 30 of them that just jumped into the water as I'm walking up here. Research what I'm trying to tell you about. It's really important. In a world where even the water coming from the sky is increasingly contaminated, nothing could be more important than preserving this precious resource. Everything alive in the American West depends on it. Well, it's starting to get dark, and we're still moving. Oh! Walking over this type of river rock all day long is exhausting. Ooh. You know, kind of make like old injuries flare up. Like you'll get these weird old pains you haven't felt in a while come back. But there's no campsites. I haven't found a single good campsite. Look at this big old growth cottonwood. All right, almost good, but very sandy. Words can't even describe how good it feels to be out of my wet clothes and out of my boots. Tomorrow we're going to a canyon that is so remote that it doesn't have a name. Bring a couple crackers along, crush them up, put them in there. Adds a little texture to your backpacker meal. All right, good morning. Check out our campsite. The craziest thing about the Grand Canyon is that as remarkable and spectacular as this canyon feels like a large accomplishment to even get here. There are thousands of places like this, if not more extreme and bigger, and even more remote in some cases. Oh, one of life's greatest challenges, putting on cold, soggy boots. Oh, put on the boots and do the work. That's what I tell myself when I've got to do something difficult that I don't want to do. Give it a shot. Going on day 5 without seeing another human being. Kind of start to get a little crazy. I don't know how you got there, man. Look at him go. There you go. Okay, I just found something. I'm sitting on this rock. And I'm sitting here, I'm trying to meditate. I started to feel like this shaking, pushing sensation up against my back. And it felt like little tiny waves in a really calm ocean. Just like little tiny waves kind of pushing on you. And I thought I was just imagining at first. I've kind of lost it now. But I was sitting here for 10 minutes and I'm convinced I wasn't imagining it. Probably a millisecond longer than a second. You know, we're in these giant corridors of stone, connected to thousands of miles of other giant corridors of stone. You know, we could be picking up on pulses of energy that travel and reverberate around the inside of the canyon. I don't know, I lost it. Wow, that was one of the craziest sensations I've had. You know, everything does have a resonance, and it's theorized that maybe this might have been a branch of technology that ancient civilizations had built upon and developed upon that we have not. So that cliff above us is probably close to 3,000 feet above our heads. But that's not actually even the rim of the Grand Canyon. That's just what would take you up to the layer known as the esplanade. If you went another 1,000 to 2,000 feet above that point, then you would reach the actual rim of the Grand Canyon, which means that we have descended from anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 feet into the bottom of the earth to get to where we are right now. Oh, this is a good one. Resonance, I'm telling you.
And then now all the frequencies messed up. Look. Now it's an interference pattern. But it'll realign itself. And just like that, the pattern's fixed itself again. Something sending a dot over here. I think there's a bug landed in the water. The sun is coming from up here, and the light reflection is bouncing off of those ripples and sending it across the top of the rock. It's almost like a visual representation of a sound wave. Now it's an interference pattern. I feel like we're living in one of these right now. It'll fix itself soon. Look at all the water channeled. So the bottom of these canyons are constantly changing. What I'm walking through right now might be totally different from what it looked like a year ago or 2 years ago, because intermixed with the periods of tranquility, there's these huge flash floods that come down. They could rearrange these entire boulders to the point where some canyons that you could hike up become no longer hikeable. I'm not lying when I say this canyon is unnamed. There are no trails, no footprints. I checked the USGS topo maps, kind of the definitive authority on landscape labels, and there's no name for this canyon. Not to say that people haven't been down here. It's so remote that nobody stopped to give it a name up to this point. I can't believe this. I have been figuring out ways how to get here for months. I have wanted to come here for so long. I can't believe I'm finally here and I'm about to see it. The walls are wonderfully smooth. So I brought some sage with me that I collected from up on the rim on our way in here, and we're gonna go make an offering at the spring. It really should be sage and tobacco, specifically wild tobacco, but I wasn't able to find any. This is it. We made it to the end. This is the end of the canyon. All right, well, this is the source of water. So we're gonna make an offering for permitting us to enter this place safely and to witness its unbelievable beauty. And an apology for muddying up its beautiful, clear, sacred spring water. I'm sitting here, I'm back at that resonance point, and I can't feel it again. All I can think about is how many clouds are rolling in. And those clouds mean moisture. It's got me a little concerned that maybe those storm cells are moving in earlier than expected. So yeah, we might have to get a move on tonight, actually. Check out what we found. Feels like seeing an old friend. Big geometric block of stone. Cool. I always thought it would be amazing to find impossible geometry in the Grand Canyon, and I have spent countless hours, maybe even days, looking for it on Google Earth. I'm gonna find it one day. The hiking right now is so treacherous. It would be so easy to break an ankle. Knock on wood. My legs hurt. It is impossible to not be slipping and falling everywhere. Oh. Oh. Goodbye, beautiful sun. Almost stepped on the sky. Oh yeah. Look at this, it's happening again. Literally the moment we entered the canyon, and now it's happening the exact moment I'm leaving. Our camping setup for the night. I just found a big rock. We're gonna try to sleep on it. It's too tired to set up the tent, so just found a big rock. All right, we gotta keep going. Oh, it was a pretty bad night's sleep. So we were here 4 days ago, but it feels like a lifetime. Connects to a hole above us. So I'm pretty sure this is a hole that was carved out by flowing water. Probably from a spring at one point. Whoa. These are all crystals. All right, we have returned. Yeah, check it out. You can see on the walls the mineral deposits from when water used to flow in here. I know what you are now. You're a dead spring. Just as expected, the clouds are starting to roll in. That canyon has a super large drainage. It's not about how deep or narrow the canyon is. It really comes down to how big is the basin that collects water and feeds into that canyon. We gotta hit the road before this rain intensifies and the roads leading out of here turn to soup. This is one of the hardest days of hiking I've ever had. Today I'm hiking about 3,000 vertical feet. It's completely exposed. These type of hikes in the Grand Canyon are extremely dangerous. There's no water whatsoever. It is extremely easy to get in a situation where you're risking heat stroke. And today's a cloudy day and the temperatures aren't even that high. If you attempted this in any time near summer, it would be even more dangerous. Please do not attempt something like this unless you are extremely experienced, especially in desert backcountry. The Grand Canyon is best experienced from the maintained trails where you have support services. There's people that can help you if something goes wrong. Oh my God, there's just 5 more feet. Almost there. We did it. That was so incredibly difficult. All right, we made it off of the really remote dirt roads and we're making our way off of the rim of the canyon. And look at the storm cloud that is rolling in and chasing behind us. There's these huge ribbons of rain. That is all unloading in the drainage that leads into the canyon that we just spent the last 4 days in. I would say there's a very good chance that there is some very strong flooding happening in those canyons right now. Wow, we just barely missed that storm. I'm feeling very happy we made the decision to hike till almost 1 a.m. last night and get out of there. This rain cloud's probably gonna catch up to us and hit us. All right, this is the night after we got out of the Grand Canyon. One of the strongest storms I've felt. This is one of those powerful lightning storms I've ever experienced.
Quick shout out to Tune Outdoors for making the best camper shell in the entire world, the M1, that kept me safe in such a crazy storm.
Still going on. I'm camped above a canyon. I can hear the river flashing right now. This canyon is currently flooding. I can hear it.
Massive flooding events like this are exactly how the Grand Canyon came to be created. And in the coming days of rain, the bottom of that canyon may have completely transformed from what it looked like when I was there.
I've never heard thunder like that before.
This is the truest nature of the Grand Canyon. Beautiful explosions of life, intermixed with cycles of flooding and destruction, to be repeated over and over and over again. Just like the rest of the entire world, on a much smaller scale. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and have a good one.